Hi, everybody. It's a mid-off-season edition of Why Eagles Why. We're all excited about bringing you what's been happening in the books as the Eagles are about halfway between the end of last season and the beginning of 2022, which starts the season on September 8th. Dave Bontempo, Bill Gelman, and Pete Amato with you. So glad you joined us. So glad to be back with my friends. And we're going to go through the Eagles' schedule because for the first few weeks and some key conference games, because we have already seen action at the books. The NFL schedule was released last week, and Bill, there's already been a movement in the lines for the Eagles' regular season wins. They were projected at 9, but at minus 150 at DraftKings, they moved it to 9.5 and minus 120. So the Eagles were one of the teams that moved. So as we get into this start, what do you think about the action on the Eagles, and what do you think of them at this point?
I mean, right now, I think the 9.5 will be not a problem at all. I mean, obviously, we got to see how training camp unfolds, who makes the roster, any last minute signings. But I did a quick overview of all 17 games before we started recording this, and I believe I have the Eagles at 12 wins.
You know, that's interesting because I had them at 10. Pete, you and I talked last week. I had them at 10. I think you were right in the same ballpark. Mm-hmm. And a buddy of mine who's a critic says, I see at least 11. So we don't have this sentiment, Pete, like we did last year about, can this team crawl out of the cellar? What we're hearing is how much can they advance from last year?
Yeah, I think when the schedule first came out, we were looking at it, and I went back and kind of looked at it again, and it's not. I know we were talking about, okay, they had an easy schedule last year, blah, blah, but then you look at the quarterbacks that are on these teams. The teams might look like they're better, but then you look at the quarterbacks that we're playing, and it doesn't look like all that hard of a schedule again. I mean, it looks like a really easy schedule, and that's one of the articles on Eagles.com. Now you'll see that statistically speaking, the Eagles are said to have the second easiest schedule all season this year in the NFL. So if that's the case, it might be easier than last year, which is surprising. So I think it kind of gets people going from like the 9 win to 10 win to 11 win, when they're really like looking at the rosters that we're facing. I know we're facing some big teams like the Packers. I mean, the Cowboys are always a big game, but like when we're really looking at the rosters and looking at the starting quarterbacks and the superstars on the teams, it doesn't seem like that hard of a schedule again.
Okay, so all of us kind of agree on the over. I bet it already. So and I'll see what happens with this. But this is the first quarter of Why Eagles Why. When we go into the second quarter, we're going to break down the first 3 games on the schedule with the point spread that's been established and get everybody's views on that. Before we go any further, please hit like and subscribe so that you can be notified about future videos as we come to the end of the first quarter on Why Eagles Why. Second quarter of Why Eagles Why, the halftime edition of the offseason, because we are looking forward to what's going to be on that Philadelphia Eagles schedule. In this quarter, we'll go over the first 3 games. Starting, Bill, with week 1, Eagles at the Lions, -4 opening day. How do you see the game? And against the spread, how do you like this?
I don't see this game being a problem at all for the Eagles. I don't like saying it's a stone cold lock at the end of May, being that training camp hasn't even started yet, but they absolutely destroyed the Lions on Halloween last year. I don't think the Lions did anything that would scare me or opposing teams. I could actually see that line go into double digits by the time we that we get closer to that game. That might be one of those games where you grab the line early, as opposed to having to worry about covering a touchdown to 10 points.
Well, you're bringing up a good point because when the lines go up, part of it is the novelty of it, but then the other part of it is, yeah, you might see a deal now versus later. Now, Pete, I'd be in Bill's camp. I would take the Eagles to cover in week one. And I guess you might be on the same page here. You called it a cookie in one of our related shows a week ago. So I guess you still feel the same way about that.
Yeah. This is probably one of the games that I'm not worried about. I mean, if it was any other team, I would be a little worried because the Eagles have been like kind of a slow starting team, especially this new regime. But I mean, first time head coach was last year. I mean, it's a second year, full training camp now, new players, a secondary that looks a lot better from recently. I mean, this is still a big cookie, even with the point spread.
Okay, we are in agreement week one that the Eagles will cover against the Lions. Now, another element of maybe getting a line early is week two. It's on Monday Night Football. The Eagles are giving 2.5 to the Minnesota Vikings. And Bill, not only is the point spread intriguing, but you noticed a specific variable regarding some of the scheduling of these Eagles games.
Yeah, the common theme, at least what I'm hearing when people are discussing the Eagles schedule, is I believe there's 4 weeks this season where the Eagles are playing on a short schedule. So you have the week 2 to week 3 where you go home opener with the Vikings, and then they play the Commanders on Sunday. I believe they have one Thursday night game this year and 2 Monday night games. I forget who the other Monday night game is against, but so
the Commanders.
Oh, that's right, the Commanders. The first one's on Sunday. Thanks, Pete. But if in reality, if you have the talent, because like Pete, you said in the opening quarter there's really you look up and down the schedule, there's maybe 2 or 3 quarterbacks that I think could give the Eagles trouble this season, but for the most part, it's there's not a whole lot to be scared about at first glance of the schedule.
Give you a little chance to think about your pick for week 2. And Pete, as I go to you on this, the Vikings have a new head coach because they underachieved last year. It's their first time in the spotlight. They've been a team that's given the Eagles trouble in recent times. Okay, Eagles minus 2.5, home opener, Monday Night Football. Your call.
I mean, home opener, the lights are the brightest. National TV. I mean, I think I would give the points. I would take the Eagles in this. I think they're a better team. The Vikings may have Justin Jefferson, but we upgraded our wide receivers, so and we upgraded our secondary. So maybe before the draft and before we pick up Bradbury, I might be saying something different, but I think the Eagles cover here.
All right, I'll take a little misdirection because I've had some trouble getting established in some of these games, and I will lean toward the Vikings. So I'll try to see if that point spread goes up a little bit before making that shot. 2.5. It's great. It's a great Eagles line. It's not a good Vikings line. If you go to week 3, it's a pick 'em at the Washington Commanders. And Pete, I'll go to you first on this one. A lot of storylines here based on what's gone on in recent times. That's a pick 'em game. I'm taking the Eagles in that pick 'em game against Washington, but how do you see that?
See, I originally was worried about the Commanders probably more than any other team in the division. The Cowboys are always good, but I feel like the Cowboys are their own worst enemy, especially last couple of seasons. The The Commanders kind of have me worried because of their defense. I feel like they do have a really solid defense. And since it is a pick'em game, it's a division game. It's in Washington. I would probably have to go with the Commanders in this one.
All right, Bill, is Carson Wentz a good commander?
It's Carson Wentz. No, Carson Wentz days as a star quarterback in this league are done. I see him being another season. I know you don't agree with me, Pete, but another season from now, I see him being, or 2 seasons, I see him developing into a backup quarterback. He just, ever since he had his injury, he's been so inconsistent. But with that being said, because I realized, let me backtrack for a second. I realized I didn't give a pick for week 2. I am going to double down. I'm going to say Eagles win. A.J. Brown scores the first touchdown that game. It worked the last time for the Super Bowl. So
it certainly did. It certainly did with Odell Beckham, and you predicted it on the show. I bet it. I hope you did. You called it.
I did. With the Commanders, I see this being because going back to last season, NFC East games are always a nightmare because for some reason the Eagles just don't seem come ready to play. Yes. I'm going Commanders in that game.
All right. So we have quite a flip-flop in the first 3 weeks, and this is only May. Fun this is. You can't have everybody in line, and we have a lot to speculate about. We'll look at the next 3 weeks in the third quarter. Third quarter of Why Eagles Why. Dave Bontempo, Bill Gelman, Pete Amato with you as we now go to week 4 on the Eagles schedule. They are at home against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they are -6. Easy to look at that and say automatic win for the Eagles, but what about that number? Pete, I'll start with you. Eagles -6 in the 4th week of the season.
The Jaguars have improved, but I don't think they've improved enough for that 6 to scare me away. It's going to be a fun, exciting game because Peterson's back. I think he's going to get a huge ovation. First coach to ever bring us a Super Bowl. It's going to be great, but I think the Eagles win by more than a touchdown that game.
So if somebody says, do you want Philly? No, we don't want Philly in that game. And now, Bill, how do you see that 6-point number? I'm going to go along with Pete on that one. I think that they have it in 1 and then they get maybe a late covering score. How do you see that game?
I agree with both you guys. I just think Jacksonville is a young team, a developing team, and I think they need another season or 2 before they can start competing against the better teams. I'm excited that Doug Peterson is coming back because he did bring us a Super Bowl, and he forever will be a hero in this town. And even though it's a shame his words of wisdom on the Art Museum steps did not come to fruition.
No, they were not able to do that. That's why you've always got to be careful about what you guarantee, right? People want you to do that. In week 5, the Eagles then go to Arizona, and they are a 2-point underdog. The first time we're seeing them as a dog on the schedule. It's a place where they've had some trouble, but there are some variables. I'll go out and say their troubles will continue there, and that they will not be able to win that game, despite some problems that the Cardinals have. And how do you guys see that? Pete, I'll go to you first on that. How do you see the Eagles at Arizona in week 5?
Well, if you look at last year, Kyler Murray without Hopkins was with Hopkins was actually like Pro Bowl caliber quarterback. Without was probably not even top 10, not even top 20 quarterback stats. It was awful. They're not going to have Hopkins. He's suspended for 6 games due to substance. So I think they go out there and they win that game. Yeah. So the 2 points, I'll take it, but I think they win that game. I think they cover. I think they cover the 2 points.
Well, and if they win outright, you have options to move the line when you make your actual bets. If you really think the Eagles might do a number,
I think they
You
win
get a
outright.
great price if you say Eagles -2. I mean, they're +2 right now, but if you want to have some fun with
Yeah,
the line,
I
you
think they
can
do
make
win outright.
some real money on that. And Bill, how about you? How do you see that?
Well, I wrote it down this morning. I forgot about the Hopkins issue. And so I'm flip-flopping to giving this an Eagles win because of the Hopkins factor. He is one of the top tier wide receivers in this game. And when you don't have him, I ask, who is Kyler Murray throwing the ball to? So I see it as an Eagles win.
And the thing with Kyler Murray is, he was injured at the end of last year. He wasn't making those runs off the left side when he would do the play action fake and then scoot to the left side and get into the end zone with all of his speed. That play disappeared, and he was very tentative at the end of the season. So that will be an interesting one to look at, the Eagles and the Arizona Cardinals in week 5. And in week 6, now we get some of the more of the rivalry. Always a game people will be talking about well in advance. It's how about them Cowboys coming here? How about that one, Bill? What do you see? Eagles and the Cowboys. I believe it's a pick off the start.
Is it a pick? Yeah, it's a pick right now.
Yeah, I see that as a pick off the start.
Yeah, hurts me to say this. I still think, even though the Cowboys no longer have Amari Cooper, the Cowboys, the way they dominated the Eagles last year, the Cowboys have been giving the Eagles trouble, and until I see a difference, I'm going with Dallas in that one. I don't like saying that, and hopefully I'm wrong, but I'm picking Dallas.
And Pete, I think that game is a microcosm of where this whole Eagles offseason discussion sits. Can they take another step into a higher level? And the Dallas game would represent that. That's the defending NFC champions who trounced the Eagles twice last year, although the second game had no real meaning to them. So how do you see that game this early?
I think with them losing Amari Cooper and us gaining one of the best defensive backs in the game, I think it swayed my decision a little bit. We all know I don't have any confidence in our defensive coordinator, and he was lost both games playing against the Cowboys. He was playing Dak totally wrong. The Eagles should win this game. I mean, they should win outright. They're at home, because I think they're going to get beat pretty bad when they go to Dallas Christmas Eve. So I think the Eagles win. I'm going to pick a win here. We have to play Dak totally different. We can't make him look like a Tom Brady and just sit back. I mean, we have the personnel to do that now. We have two great defensive backs that can play up on their man. We have a new lineman. We have a new linebacker. So I think the Eagles have the personnel that they should not lose this game. It's a home game. It's a division game. It's going to be tough either way, but I think they win.
All right, so maybe you'll be the lone wolf on this one. I'm going to go with Dallas, thinking that the Eagles are not ready to get over the hump yet, although they are closing in. And I think this will be interesting because we're taping this during the off season, and it will be interesting when we look at this after a few weeks. And now this Dallas game is approaching, and we'll be able to evaluate those guys you're talking about and see if they've made that type of an impact. And if they have or have not, that's going to impact the line one way or another. So it's good. There's a lone wolf among us in many of these games. And just think about what's going on at all of our play sites and on the Y Eagles Y channel. The more people that weigh in on this, the more opinions you're going to get. That's why it's so fun to talk about it now. When we get to the fourth quarter, we'll get to some specific, intriguing, and interesting NFC East matchups. Fourth quarter of Y Eagles Y. We've gone through the early part of the schedule, And then there are these wild card games that come up because they attract such big interest, and they are the NFC East matchups after the bye. Starting against the Washington Commanders at home on Monday night, I see a definitive Eagles victory, and I think that that's a good observation. If you want to make a bet on that now, I have confidence with them. But how about you, Pete? Where do you see that game?
Yeah, I think this is an Eagles win. Division games are always going to be tough. Usually I'm going to give it to the home team, especially if they're even. I think the Eagles are a little better than Washington, but I think division games are a big deal when they're at home versus away. So I think the Eagles win this. It's going to be a close game, and they're always close games. What's the spread on this? Is there a spread up yet?
3.5.
3.5. I still think the Eagles cover that. I mean, that's actually kind of a scary thing because these division games are close, very close. So it could be, I could see somebody taking the 3.5, but I say the Eagles win.
The dreaded hook. Of course, you can buy yourself from 3.5 down to 3 for about -120 if you think it's going to be decided right on that. Bill, you've talked about Carson Wentz coming in this late in the season. Now it'll be him coming back to Philadelphia. Do you see that as being a big storyline for that game, or do you think it will be so late and that it'll be a long time since he was starting here? How do you see the news angle on that game, and then how do you see the game?
Well, I see Carson Wentz's confidence, if he's still playing and starting for Washington, is going to be absolutely shattered that night because he's going to get the loudest boos of the season at Lincoln Financial Field. It's a Monday night game, so the fans are going to be in the parking lot from around some might be there at breakfast time, but I guarantee you they're going to be tailgating throughout lunch. It's going to be like a holiday.
He should get a standing ovation. That's what he should get.
Yeah, maybe if he never got hurt. But he just he was a big part of the Super Bowl run. I'll give you that. Without him, I don't know if the Eagles make it to the Super Bowl that season. But he just hasn't been the same quarterback. I stick behind my belief that I don't see him being a long-term starting quarterback in this league, but I think the Eagles win this game handily because Washington is not a good team. I think they lose the first one because of the fact that for some reason the Eagles get off to a slow start against Washington. But this is Monday night at home. I think the Eagles win it. I'm not worried about the 3.5 point spread.
Okay, so we are in lockstep with that, and Pete will call you as an Eagles call there, even though that hook is going to make people think about it. We'll assume you may buy your way down to 3 and take that one. Now, another big game on the schedule coming is to be the first of 2 late season games against the New York Giants up in New York, -1.5 for the Eagles. They've had success there. They didn't have it last year, but they've had success there. I think the teams are on a different level, and I'm going to go with the Eagles on that to cover it because they've just they've had some success up there and a couple of crazy wins against the Giants over the years there. So that's my take on it. But Pete, how about you?
I think the Eagles are a much better team than the Giants. With that said, division games always get me a little bit nervous, especially, I mean, they have had the success in New York, but I do think they split with the Giants. And they might split because the last game of the season they played the Giants, and they might not even, might not matter. They're going to be coming off of a couple losses right before the Giants game. So I think, I think they win in New York. They're pretty successful in New York. I think they do win that first game.
How about you, Bill?
I'm going this as a win for the Eagles. I think the Giants have a lot of question marks they have yet to answer. They do not have a quarterback. I know last season I was praising Daniel Jones a little bit. I was wrong. I admit it. Until the Giants solve the quarterback problem, they have a running back who can't seem to stay healthy. They have a lot of moves they need to make. So I'm going Eagles win in this one.
A strange mindset surrounding the New York Giants right now, underachieved with all those moves they had made in the offseason a year ago. So we're in step with that. And then I have a feeling we may all see this next game the same. Eagles at the Dallas Cowboys. I think that the jinx and the hex continues, at least for this year, in my view, with the Eagles at the Cowboys. But how do you guys see that? Bill, we'll start with you on that one.
And once again, going with the Cowboys win, I think it's, the Eagles just in Dallas, in the palace, that Jerry's palace, whatever you want to call it. I don't see the Eagles winning there. And, maybe next year, or, hopefully by December, I change my pick, but I just see the Dallas dominating this game.
And I will clarify there that the DraftKings early line was Eagles plus 3.5. I'm still going to lay those points too, and maybe consider a hook. But for the moment, I'm taking Dallas minus the 3.5. And how about you, Pete?
Yeah, this is going to be the end of a tough road trip for the Eagles. Well, no. Yeah. So it's 3 games in a row. This will be the 3rd game of the road trip. Short week, Christmas Eve, Saturday. Eagles do not win that game.
All right, we're all on board with these games within the division, and then the last one is going to be interesting because you have to ask if it matters. Now, for the sake of making predictions, we will assume that it does. If it later comes out that they're starting, they're resting half of their starters, and just basically it's a no pick for us. But -5 against the Giants. I know the Giants always play them tough, but I could see a little bit of a repeat of last year where the Giants are very tough for half to maybe 2/3 of the game, and the Eagles pull away and get them. So I'm laying the 5, especially in a situation if the Eagles do need that game. How about you, Bill?
I think if the Eagles do need the game, I would lay the 5. If the Eagles do not need the game, I see it being a very tight, very sloppy game. So if it counts, Eagles minus the points. If it doesn't count, Giants plus the points.
All right. For the sake of comparing here, we'll assume that the game is going to matter, but you've got your caveat. Okay, Pete, how about you?
I don't think it matters whether they're. I mean, I'm not laying. I think the Eagles win the game, but I don't think I'm not laying 5 points. It's always a sloppy game. I feel like when they try or not, I think the 5 points is just too many. I think they win this game maybe by 1, 2, 3 points, but I would say the Eagles might win the game, but they're not covering the 5 points.
All right. So if they need the game, Pete, you're the lone wolf. And if they don't need the game, Bill, you've given us an extra comment to put into the philosophies. All right. They are the first 4 quarters. We'll have a finishing thought in our overtime section. All right, it's overtime for Why Eagles Why. Doesn't matter that this was set up about halfway through the offseason because, Bill, there is so much interest the NFL has managed to do after releasing the schedule in the last couple of years, and especially this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think about it that of the 4 major pro sports, the NFL is the one where they actually put a primetime show together, releasing the schedule. And now you add another wrinkle to it. You know, you go back to prior to the 2018 season, there was no sports betting wasn't legal in New Jersey. Now it's at the point where all 18 weeks of the regular season, there's lines up already. So you can, whether you like the Eagles, the Giants, the Cowboys, you can right now, the end of May, you can go on your sportsbook of choice and place bets on all 18 weeks of the season. See how you do. It just boggles my mind that you can bet on games in May. with points.
Yes. In fact, at one point we were thinking about doing the entire season just to say, look at us. We're following it and taking advantage of it in May to get right on the bandwagon. I give the NFL a lot of credit for keeping off-season interest, whether that's mock drafts and then it's the draft itself and all the hype going to that. Then they've got this with releasing the schedule, and they did it piecemeal so that they got stories every different day about 1 week and then this week, and then they released it all at one time. And we've even seen some lines move. We saw the Eagles win total move, and some things with the other team. The Jets, according to the Caesar Sportsbook, is the most popular over. And I believe the number was in the neighborhood of 5.5 wins. So it has generated interest. And Pete, what are your thoughts on just where this is all heading and the excitement that we're anticipating going forward from here?
I think it's always exciting. Any Eagles start of a season, even if we're going in not feeling that great. I mean, this season, I think everybody thinks that the Eagles did a really good job in the offseason, a lot better than anybody thought, especially with like the kind of the slow start of the offseason. But I mean, it's been a couple of crazy signings. It's interesting because last year, the Eagles had one of the easiest schedules. In the beginning, it was a little tougher, but towards the end, it was like super easy. This year, it's still an easy schedule, but it does get kind of difficult towards the middle end. If the Eagles can kind of, I guess, not lose themselves through that like tough few games of on the road or playing the Packers, playing teams like the Titans. If they can just kind of maybe steal one or two of those games and not totally like lose total confidence, I think they will get over the a lot of it's 9.5 points. I mean, 9.5 wins is a lot of
Yes,
the
they moved that. They moved it. Yes.
Yeah, I still think they get 10 wins. Some people are saying more now, but it's going to be a little bit of a tough stretch towards the end of the season. And I think if they can not lose too much confidence, I think they can just go towards and then finish the season with at least 10 wins.
And two things we'll be watching between now and throughout the season. Will there be a pass rush from the Eagles? And can they give enough people the ball? A.J. Brown was outspoken in Tennessee. Does he conform in Philadelphia? That's two of the issues going on surrounding the Eagles. Well, this has been a lot of fun. We'll be doing more content between now and the beginning of the season. Then, of course, our Why Eagles Why all season long. So remember to please hit the like and subscribe to be notified about all the future videos. Sometimes we'll do them impromptu as news items come up. Bill and Pete, it's great to see you again. So for Bill Gelman and Pete Amato, this is Dave Bontempo saying thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.